Spider-Man, Spider-Man, does whatever a spider can. Is he strong? Listen, bud, he got the radioactive blood. Hey there goes the Spider-Man. Oh! Is he strong?
Hello there, gang, and welcome to another episode of Displaying-Model-Behaviour, the Earth's mightiest video podcast. Now let's talk toys. Let's talk specifically about the Hot Toys Amazing Spider-Man, the Asia exclusive limited to 400 pieces that I managed to pick up at Tokyo Comic Con. Was he worth the cheddar that I had to part with to get him? Well, we're going to find out right now. So first of all, you've got the package here on display on the ludicrously not that expensive Spinatron 2000, and it looks very, very nice. It's a nice display box, but what we really want to get to is what's inside. So we'll magically reveal the Hot Toys Spider-Man comic book 616 Spider-Man, something I've been waiting a long time for. Does he live up to my personal hype and expectation? Well, there's a lot to unpack here. And honestly, I'm very, very happy with him, but he does have quite a few caveats I want to go over. And also, I'll say right now, for the price, it's expensive for what it is. I'll say that much. But the most important thing with any action figure is just, how does it look on the shelf? Well, easy. This looks great on the shelf. He's bright and bold and popping. The red, the choice of color, the tone of the red is vibrant. It's so well done. It just looks great when he's up there on the display stand. It really is a wonderful centerpiece for a collection. So 100% I can say he looks great. That's the most important thing. But there's a whole lot of little nuances to look over as well. The biggest problem, the biggest detraction for this, of course, is the articulation. That was always gonna be the case. It's Hot Toys, so they look beautiful, and the cloth, or whatever material it is, costume, is great. But it also majorly hampers movement. That's something that was always gonna be the case, because this is one piece, including even the head itself. The head, it all is stitched together. There's no breaks or anything. I mean, yeah, obviously, like the mask is stitched to the body, but that's it. It's stitched to the body. You can't remove it. So the only thing that comes off are the hands, and you got a lot of hands to choose from. That's nice. But then because of that, if you want to bend the leg and then bend it again, you're bending the material over the joints, so it's really not going to go very far. And even the instructions itself, it shows you very distinctly, like, this is the maximum you can bend it. It gives the degree, whatever degree this is, I don't know, like 80 degrees or something, but it shows you, like, don't play with this. You know, don't push it too far, because it will stretch, it will rip, and then that's a lot of money that's kind of down the drain. So be very, very careful. So I want my Spider-Man to be in a dynamic swinging pose, but really you are limited, because you can only do so much with him. I like to have I grew up on McFarlane and Mark Bagley, so I'm used to having Spider-Man all crouched up and with his knees up over his head and his arms like jutting out. No, you ain't doing that with this guy. So but what is kind of like nice in a respect is that this has, it's got some very classic kind of vibes to it. And the old classic Ditko and Ramitya Spider-Men, they weren't as gymnastic and contortionist as the more modern versions. But you know what? I'm a modern kid. So it goes well for a retro aesthetic, but for a more modern one, it would be nice to have a bit more mobility going on there. Like, you can twist at the hips, but there's like kind of like a little bit of an ab crunch, but not really. No, there really isn't. And also that the head itself, you can look side to side. Oh, and you can remove the eyes. Should probably talk about that now, I guess. So you have these different eye lenses, and you might think from having just seen what happened, oh gosh, so do they just fall out all the time? No, they actually don't fall out all the time. That was the first time I've ever accidentally knocked one off, so that's fine. And you got these mirrored ones, which are kind of cool. They're kind of striking, but honestly for me, I just want like the more classic comic booky sort of ones. But the fact that you've got the squint as well, and you can mix and match them as well. So if you want to have one open eye and one squinting one, like he's got a camera that he comes with, so you can pose him sort of taking a picture. Yeah, I don't know, it doesn't make realistic sense to have his eyes squint, but it's a creative artistic device. I kind of like that. So because you can't take the head off at all, you just got to be able to peel the eyes off. And honestly, that's an interesting little innovation as far as the technology is concerned. I kind of dig what they did with that. Going back to the suit before I was rudely interrupted by my own clumsiness, the material I really like. It's a sort of a, I don't know, it feels kind of rubbery, a bit sort of plasticky. It's not cloth, is what I'm saying. There's a real sort of texture to it, so it doesn't feel like a campy 1960s Adam West Batman pajamas type suit. It feels like this is a movie suit. There's a lovely sort of ridged, raised kind of quality to it, and of course the spider logo on the back is a different type of rubber as well, so that lets it feel like it's a more practical thing that's been made by an official costume maker. Even the webbing itself, of course, that's not just printed on, it's actually a different separate raised rubber material. So I'm getting a big bang of Sam Raimi Spider-Man off of this, and again the spider logo on the chest, which I've got to also say I think is the perfect size. That's the perfect size for the Spider-Man chest logo, because sometimes it can be too big, sometimes it can be too small. They've Goldilocks this, it's just right. But that's as far as I can go with the suit, really, and there's nothing else to say. It looks good, and you can see the arms here. You might have heard the click. Yeah, the arms are on ratchets, and some reviewers that I've watched have said you've got to be very careful, because this is my first full body Hot Toys figure. They said be very careful not to pinch the cloth in the ratchet. There's a lot of ways you can ruin this figure, so I gotta be real careful about that. But yeah, like I said right at the start, at a glance just on the shelf, the costume looks nice. It looks real nice, really, really good. And before the lens dropped off, I was showing you the head articulation, and that's another bone of contention. Left to right is pretty decent, but then up and down, not so much. He can look up enough that, you know, he can be firing a web up or sort of shooting down and looking up. Like, it just about works, but you would ideally like a lot more. You'd like a lot more movement in a perfect world, but we just aren't getting that with the costume pulling in every direction. So also, I find if you do overextend it, the head pops off whatever hinge it's on, and you go kind of like push it back down. At first, yes, I was terrified that I'd broken it when the head just went, and I was like, oh no! But no, I tended to Paul Bearer there. Oh, my Spider-Man. Oh, that was an awful Paul Bearer impression. But nonetheless, the head's fine, but again, it's limited with articulation. The boots are great though, all one piece, looks very anatomically correct. Got the lumps of the ankles and the shape of the foot. I really dig that. They got a harder plastic sole on the bottom there. That's fine. That looks great. So on the whole, again, this is an expensive figure, but I do really, really like what they've done. Could there have been more extras like an unmasked head and stuff? Yes, but would I have used it? No. And it would have broken up the full design of the suit all being connected. So I'm fine with that. I love the swap out lenses. You can have some fun with that. So yeah, this figure, really, really happy with it. Let's take a look at some more of the extras. Of course, you've got a whole bunch of different hands going on here, so your posing options, even if you can't move the figure about all that much, at least you can change around the hands and things. I like his reaching out kind of spidery hand. You can have him crawling on the walls with the wall crawling hand too. Thwipping, of course, but with the thwip, I get a little bit frustrated with the thwip because you can't really angle the hand down very much. It's very much like up. You can angle it down a little bit, but not enough to get that real good thwipping look. But they do have a nice little feature where if you want to have him firing a web, he actually has a removable palm of the hand. So you can have just a smooth hand, or you can have this palm that's firing the web line out, and then you just stick the web line, oh, excuse me while I drop that, you can stick the web line into the web that's coming out of his wrist. That's nice in theory, but I feel like it doesn't really sit very nicely on the wrist. I feel like this lumpy bit of web just sort of sticks up. It doesn't look like it's coming from his wrist. So I kind of shied away from that display option. But again, you've got all these different, I keep saying and again, I gotta check myself on that. He has this wonderful bunched up web that I really, really like, and a few others to choose from as well. So they give you a lot of options there. And then he also has his web shooters, which is interesting that they're designed, of course, to sit on top of his wrists. And I'm trying to think, I can't think of any source material where Peter Parker has his web shooters on the outside. And it's a very Ben Reilly kind of thing. I like the aesthetic, and maybe like way back in the day, did John Romita or Steve Ditko draw Spidey with external web shooters? Or is this just like, we can say, oh, he's pulled up his sleeve or whatever, or he's slapped it on like in the middle of battle or something? I don't know, but they do look really nice, and it adds to an interesting sort of aesthetic. But for me, I've got to have classic Peter, so it's just basic Spider-Man. But for basic Spider-Man, he's basically pretty darn good. But that's not all. We also have the display stand. And the display stand is not great. It's all just made out of very thin, flimsy plastic. You kind of origami it together and they slot and slide into place. But it was a frustrating experience trying to put this thing together. It really was, because they don't like interlock. They just kind of balance, and they were falling off and things were dropping to try and set up like all 6 buildings. It was really frustrating. Eventually I was like, screw it, I'm getting the super glue, and I just glued them in place, and that kind of works. But again, it's not like a real bells and whistles display base. It's just like paper crafts, essentially. And the same goes for the logos as well, which are very nice to have. I dig it. I'm not going to knock it for putting more stuff in there. So you got the very classic Spider-Man logo, and you got the animated 94 Amazing Spider-Man logo, and a thwip as well. Those are really fun. I got a lot of time for that. It's just aesthetics. You can include them or not. I'm happy to include them. It brightens up my background. That's a nice touch. And then you've got a little Green Goblin as well, and he's kind of fun. He's nothing too special. It's something that you would get out of a gachapon machine over here for 500 yen, but it's a fun little touch. He's got the display stand that sticks onto the main one, so it's like he's flying after Spider-Man. I feel like the paint job on that is basic. It is very much a, hey, we're going to chuck this in for a bonus little fun thing, but this ain't a selling point, you know? But it did give me the idea that this is how I want to display this Spider-Man and my whole Spider-Man collection when I eventually put it all back together one day. I'm not going to have a 1/12 scale Spider-Man. I'm going to have this guy in the front of the display, and then all the Marvel Legends and Mezcos or whatever brand of villains I have are going to be behind him in 1/12 scale, coming after him. That's going to look great. That's going to be the best way to utilize this 1/6 scale figure. Because I'm not going to go down the 1/6 scale rabbit hole and start getting a whole bunch of these. This is the one. But I love the fact that with that kind of logic, I can include this with my 1/12 scale display. And it's going to work. And that, I'm really excited to do that. So with all of that considered, I think we should give this guy a grade. So for the Hot Toys Amazing Spider-Man, I am going to give this guy a 3.5 stars out of 5. He's not a perfect figure as far as articulation is concerned, and of course he's very expensive for what he is, but also what he is something I've wanted for the longest time. So I do really love him for that, and that's why he's also going to get a boom seal of model behavior. Because you know what? Even though it was a big price, it's 400 limited edition pieces, only available in Asia at the moment, although I'm sure it'll get released by different distributors later. Easy for me to say. For the fact that I got to have him in hand, bought at Tokyo Comic Con, it puts a lot of love in my heart for the figure. And now that I've got this display idea with the Marvel Legend villains coming after him, that's going to look great. I'm excited to put that together. I'm getting a lot of love from this figure, and for that, it means I get my money's worth. But guys, what do you think about this figure? What do you think about Hot Toys in general? 1/6 scale collectibles? Is that something you're into, or is it just 1/12 ride or die? Comment below, let me know. And guys, if you like what you see here and you want to see more, then you know what you got to do. You got to join the 6-1 clicks by clicking the like, share, and subscribe buttons. So gang, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, keep displaying model behavior.
Cup of coffee. Big time coffee.